All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG podcast, and today we have a variety of topics, including a bunch of character tie-ins. We got Witcher 3 tie-ins and Soul Calibur. We have Vayne Solidor coming in Dissidia. We got Noctis and Tekken 7 from Final Fantasy 15. Vayne Solidor is from Final Fantasy 12, if you're wondering. And anyway, so we're going to talk about all these. I know what you're thinking. Hey, these games are not RPGs, but these are RPG characters. And we're excited to talk about it. So we're going to be hitting that first, and then we're going to jump into the State of the Tales franchise. Now that sounds kind of gloomy. We're not saying like, hey, there's an issue with it, but there's been a lot of chatter on the internet about the next Tales game. Seems like there's going to be a PS4 release, or might be a Switch release. We're just going to give our kind of opinions on that and what we would like to see. And then on our third topic, we're jumping back onto the Final Fantasy train, because the Final Fantasy 7 Remake news with the recent job listing has been a topic of immense discussion. Does it mean that they completely restarted? Does it mean they're just hiring more people? What does it mean? So we're going to talk about that. And then also we have a listener comment/question from Leon, and he's actually inspired us to have a vote this week on what is your favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack. So we are going to have a vote in the top right-hand corner, I believe, of this video. Just go ahead and click on that and let us know what your favorite soundtrack is. If you have any other thoughts, leave it in the comments and we'll bring it up next week. And then we will give our favorite Final Fantasy soundtracks. We're probably not going to rank the entire one from 15 downwards, because that might take who knows how long. And there's so many good songs, but we might limit it to like the top 3 or top 5, but we'll have to see. But before we get into any of that, if you are watching us on YouTube, we recently had our podcast put on Spotify and Stitcher. So there's a bunch of different places you can go if you want the audio-only version, maybe while you're traveling to see family or whatever the case may be, maybe to work. You can listen to this podcast in audio-only form, and there's going to be an audio-only link in the description. And if you look at the channel... main channel page for YouTube, in the right hand corner there should be some links to some of the big ones like Stitcher and iTunes. But Spotify is a big deal because you can now listen to us on your PS4 or Xbox while you're gaming. So I think it's pretty cool. So check it out, and if you have any issues, just let us know. And one other piece of advice here, or I don't want to say advice, but a thing to bring up is we did start a Twitter page maybe like 2 days ago, or just trying to test out our social media prowess, I guess you could say. So go ahead and follow us on there. I think we got 1 follower right now, so it's kind of embarrassing, guys. You got to help us out. But it was only 2 days ago. We didn't promote it, so we're letting you know now. Go on there, follow us. We'll tweet out whenever we got any new content or anything cool that we see. And if you have any questions that you want on the podcast or anything like that, you can tweet us there. Or if you just want to, let us know what you think about anything, we'll be glad to hear it. Anyways, that's going to be in the right-hand corner of the YouTube channel page, and I'll put a link in the description as well. But other than that, let's go ahead and get this started. So this week, I've been playing a ton of Xenoblade Chronicles, and that was voted recently for our next discussion. And I'm actually excited to talk about that, but I just got to plow through this game. I was recently shocked when I looked up online the average time to beat on howlongtobeat.com, and it said for a very casual story-only playthrough was 67 hours. So I'm about 25 hours in, and I guess I'm only about a third of the way through the game, which seems outrageous to me. But I talked to some other people that said that, the game actually shouldn't take that long, especially if you skip a lot of the quests, which are mostly fetch quests, but they're not, they don't get in the way. So what would you say for how long to beat Xenoblade Chronicles? What was your experience? Does 67 hours sound accurate?
I'd say if you don't do the side quest, it's about 60 to 70 hours to beat it. It's a pretty long game.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so far it's been really, really good. I haven't had any real issues with it. It's been very imaginative in what I've been able to experience with it. I don't want to go into too much detail, but man, 60 to 70 hours, that's long.
Maybe, but maybe a little below 60. Maybe I'm giving it a little too much credit, but it felt like a very long game, and I played it like tails long.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Because I'm having so much fun with the game, I find myself just grinding a lot. So it might take that long for me to beat it. Maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. Because, just because it's so fun to run around in the world and just see everything that I'm sometimes taking my time in certain areas. And I have to tell myself, okay, no, let's get to the next story point. So, but hopefully I'll finish it here soon. But have you been playing anything that you want to bring up? I know you were working on Radiant Historia last week.
Still working on it. I'm on chapter 5 between both the standard history and alternate history. So I'm definitely over the halfway point on it. I don't have as much time on that. I do a lot of Final Fantasy 14 related stuff also. So it's kind of mixing that, my real life, and that same time. So, I'm progressing through it just fine. But it's just going to take a little longer to do that. But it's still a great game. I'm still very invested in it. That is definitely one of the best RPG handheld titles I have played in a while.
Very cool. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that game actually did not get picked between what we had for games to discuss. Because, we had Xenoblade Chronicles, Final Fantasy VII, Terranigma, Secret of Mana, and then that game. And Radiant Historia, if I remember correctly, was actually getting a few votes there. And I was hoping that game was going to win, but I would have been happy with any of them. Mm-hmm. So maybe in the future we can have a discussion about that game. So we'll see. If you guys want to hear more about Radiant Historia, just let us know in the comments, and we'll be glad to talk about it. But moving on to our first topic. This topic is actually 3 mini topics. You brought this up to me, Eric, about all these guest tie-ins. Did you want to just start this topic off?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a craze of like RPG characters meet fighting game crossover in fighting games. So first we have Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series. He will be on Soul Calibur 6. And that's actually really cool. There's something I've always really liked about Soul Calibur. They've always been able to get interesting, like, you never see this coming characters. Like, the second game, they had Link for the GameCube version, Heihachi for the PS2 version, and then Spawn for the Xbox. Then...
Oh, cool. So it was a specialized experience. You had a reason if you wanted to go buy all 3 versions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone pretty much... Well, the PS2 was technically the most popular one for the fighting tournaments, but, people also love playing the GameCube one for Link. But the 4th one was when they really went out of their way. Like, you could just imagine these 3 characters in Soul Calibur, but they straight out put Yoda and Darth Vader in Soul Calibur 4. The Xbox 360 version got Yoda, and the PS3 version got Darth Vader. That was a pretty insane thing they did. And Soul Calibur 5, they put in Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty awesome. Now, this time, they're doing Geralt. And everyone, has played The Witcher. It's just pretty popular opinion. Everyone loves Geralt, and it's very welcoming to see him in that game.
Yeah, I was checking out the trailer, and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to have to check this out, because it looks pretty sick. And I like how it looks like it kind of like specialized the moves to his character, so it's not just like like a dummy with that, like, that has a skin that looks like him. It actually looks like it. He kind of like moves and such like he did in the Witcher series. So it looks like it's kind of like giving you another chance to experience that character in a different way, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome.
What do they usually do for like do they give like story segments for like these characters? Soul Calibur, I played it a fair amount, but usually it's like at a friend's house, and it's like a bunch of people there, and like I can't really like spend like a whole day with it. But do they have like story reasons for why they're there?
Kind of. How they structure stories in the games, I think they put a little more detail in further Soul Caliburs, but how it is traditionally is they have like a story at the beginning of like the story arcade mode where it says like Link got transported from Hyrule to the world of Soul Calibur by the power of Soul Edge or something. And then you go through the arcade mode, and then by the end of it, you have a little story of like what happened after they, beat the game. And I think that's for the most part is going to be how it is especially for the guest cameo characters. They just kind of give them an open shut book type story because they're not going to be in the next one, so they don't involve them but so much. But they're more like the fun characters than the actual like core character roster.
Cool, very cool. Do we have a release date for that? Is that
2018?
That's it?
Yeah. Okay. I would imagine it'd be coming out around probably fall time. Or I don't know when tournaments like EVO are. It may come out like a little before a major tournament. Fighting games do tend to come out around those times.
Very cool. I saw the trailer for Vayne Solidor in Dissidia also, and that got me really pumped up because Vayne Solidor is one of my favorite characters from Final Fantasy 12. And just seeing him in action again, it looked really, really cool. And just all his different moves. And then like they got that music playing behind him. It's like so closely associated with him. So that was really, really cool. I was really surprised they went Vayne Solidor because usually they'll try to stick with like from what I've seen, like I figured they would go, okay, Balthier, and then that's about as deep as they go in the Final Fantasy 12 usually. They don't usually, or maybe like Vaughn, but they don't ever seem to really dig deep too much with any other side projects or side games. So
yeah,
I thought it was really cool that they did Vayne Solidor.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that we had Geralt in the original Dissidia games, and he's not in this one yet. They brought Vayne in also, which I mean that makes more sense. Vayne was more the villain than Geralt was. Like Vayne was the main antagonist, but like Geralt was antagonistic, and I mean. For Dissidia itself, I don't really care for the game that much. I think they took a lot of what was good of the original out, but there is a small fan base for it. From what I heard, it didn't sell that well, but there is a fan base for it, and they do like seeing these new characters come in. And Vayne is definitely one of the cooler choices. It's really cool how he works. Like he has like a bunch of swords that follow him. And like he uses it, and of course when he goes into his like EX mode, he turns into his Titan form, and he goes like crazy out on people. But it's really cool how his stance is in the fighting game. Like he's like, his hands are like always behind his back. He always looks like, he's the one in charge here. He's got this under control. I mean, say what you want, like about the game itself, but like, damn, like Vayne Solidor is like always cool.
Yeah, I've always liked his character, especially within Final Fantasy 12, like his role in that, because he was kind of, you could kind of make the case that he really wasn't the bad guy, It's like if you were in his position, would you not do almost the same thing? So
yeah, he did go a little bit to the extreme though, depending on the Netta site. That was kind of making him go crazy over the time. But yeah, you do see like between the Empire and like Dalmasca, like you do understand where both sides are coming from ultimately, but I think just Vayne just went a little too out of control.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, you can't have a Final Fantasy game with a villain that doesn't go a little bit out of control. It's part of the territory.
Yeah.
So also we had a Noctis in Tekken 7. Now, I'm going to admit that when I first saw this drop, I just thought like, oh my God, Square, just stop. Like, because it was just like, it just felt like, Noctis and Final Fantasy 15 was on everything. And there was so much product placement with the Assassin's Festival and the Cup Noodle and the Coleman and the cell phone games and, everything else. I just wanted like some peace and quiet from some of this product placement. So when I saw this, at first I was kind of like, oh my God, please don't do this. This has to be fake. But it was real. And the more I've looked at it, I'm not gonna lie, I think it's really well done. I think that like from what I've seen, I haven't, had any hand-on experience with this, but it looks like it's really well done. It looks like it's like actually they put in some time into this. And after watching a couple of trailers, it actually made me kind of excited about this. So what were your thoughts with Noctis and Tekken 7?
I think it's pretty cool. I don't see why not. It's funny for me to say that as someone who's so anti FF15 all the time, but I really don't have any problem, particularly with the characters themselves. just more the execution of it. So I do like the character Noctis himself. So seeing him in a game like Tekken is pretty cool because Tekken itself is a pretty wacky game on top of that. I mean, it does have its like serious side lore, but they do like to play around. A lot of times they do like to do a lot of silly things, like have a panda bear fight sometimes. But, you know, you can throw Noctis in there and it's just fine. And Tekken is like I said, Tekken is a pretty fun and wacky game. And if you want to add like a Final Fantasy character in there, you know, it does no harm to the brand itself. It's just like Soul Calibur. It's cool to have those like really like those really cool guest cameos sometimes. And it does help it sell better. Like Final Fantasy fans now see that Noctis is on Tekken. So they're like, oh, well, I like Noctis. Let me check Tekken out. Let me see what this is about. Let me see if it's something I'll buy. And, you know, that's pretty much a draw in with all these guest characters. It's beneficial on both sides of the company that like Tekken players are like, oh, who's this Noctis character? Oh, he's from a game. He's from Final Fantasy 15 from Square Enix. Maybe I'll check this out. Or like Geralt is from the Witcher games. I'll go check those out. And it's a pretty smart marketing move, and it doesn't really hurt anyone unless you're a game that's like so seriously tied down to your lore that putting someone like that in could cause harm to it. That people may have a case of like, don't put them in there. But both Soul Calibur and Tekken do like to go a little wacky sometimes, so it's A-okay. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I like what you said though about like, hey, you don't really have a problem with the characters in Final Fantasy 15. It was execution of it, because that's kind of what I realized too when I was watching these trailers. Is I actually like the characters, and I like a lot of stuff about Final Fantasy 15. I was just mad about what's not in the game from the get go. You know, I like most of the stuff that's there. I just don't like that they like certain things weren't in it. So, but yeah, I agree. When you have product placement like this, this is the kind of stuff I think is actually kind of cool, because if you're like already sit on the fence, like, I don't know if I should get the Royal Edition for Final Fantasy 15. I never got the original game when it came out, but like people are saying it's kind of bad. I don't know. You know, then you see this, if you're a Tekken fan, if you're already on the fence, this might push you over. I don't think this is going to win too many people over that did not intend on buying the game at all. But yeah, I mean, if you're on the fence, it's entirely going to push you over the fence, especially if it's done well. And I'm excited to see if there's going to be some like Tekken tournaments or something in the future. If people are going to like specialize with Noctis, I don't know. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool to check out and see. So awesome.
Yeah, cool with me.
So our next topic, I'm going to be talking about the state of the Tales franchise. Now, that's like I said, that sounds gloomy, but it's actually, I think it's doing very well. I know that the past couple of games before Berseria were people had some issues with for a variety of different reasons. And I think Tales of Berseria was a step in the right direction. It got a lot of great reviews. And a lot of people have been talking about, well, when's the next Tales game coming out? And I was doing some research on this, and apparently the development team said, hey, like, you know, Tales of Berseria, we're proud of it, but it's the last time that we can use the engine that they used for that game, because it's starting to look pretty dated, and they want to rebuild the next game for the PS4 or next generation console. And I think that's the right move, but I guess it's going to take a little bit longer. But I don't know how long that's actually going to take, because, you know, if it's going to take longer than like 2 or 3 years, I mean, we're going to be getting close to PS5 territory, but I don't know. So they're working on that, but there's also been a lot of chatter about a mobile Tales game coming to the Switch. And apparently the company even stated that this was, and like they were actively pursuing this. And I know there was a live stream with the Tales of like development team or the company, and there was no mention of any future Tales game. A lot of people were disappointed about that stream. I think it happened in December, but I think that if they had a Tales game on the Switch, that would be perfect. And a lot of people have speculated that they could still use the Berseria engine or the engine they use for Berseria, and that would be fine for the Switch. And I don't know anything about the engine or if that's even possible, but I think that graphically that makes sense to me. I didn't see anything in Berseria that told me like the Switch wouldn't be able to run a game close to this, So what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, Berseria was actually originally on the PS3 in Japan, but the PS3 was pretty much a near dead system here at the time. So they just ported the game to PS4. They didn't exactly make it better, beyond some technical things in the background. But besides that, it was the PS3 game essentially.
Graphically, I felt like it was, you could tell it wasn't like the highest graphical fidelity, but like it didn't really like stand out to me as ugly,
Yeah.
Like it seemed like it was polished, and I felt like the animated cutscenes were well done. Like I didn't feel like it hurt the game at all, but
yeah, I will say this about the Tales games graphically. It's anime. So I think they do a pretty decent job on converting its anime style to the game. I believe they use like a level of aesthetic that is to its own that makes it feel unique in a way that doesn't make it feel like generic anime. So Tales always usually gets away with that just fine. If the next engine they make, I can't imagine it being some like huge major step up. I think mechanically it might be a lot different. And in my feelings on the Tales series overall, I thought Berseria was definitely one of the better ones. But Tales has been getting really weak lately. And formulaic on top of that. Like Symphonia, Abyss, and Vesperia were like incredible titles. Those are like 3 definitely good games. But Symphonia maybe a little bit less than the other 2. But Abyss and Vesperia were definitely spot on. But like for some reason after that, Tales of Xillia was pretty good. But things just started dying down. Like there was like Tales of Hearts and Tales of God, there's so many Tales out there.
what it looks like to me is that they got really good at making this one type of game, and they had the process down to where they could just like make them in record timing and just keep pushing them out. And none of them were like horrible games, but it seemed like they just got really good at making like a 7.5 out of 10 game. And like a lot of the fan base seems like they got really were getting really upset that they weren't putting in these masterpiece games anymore. Would you? I don't know. Is that wrong, or is my assessment wrong? I'm not a diehard Tales fan, but I did really enjoy Berseria. But
I would say the critics got a point there. There's a couple of things that bother me about Tales games nowadays. One, they took the world map out, and for a game like this, there's no need to make like actual. And because of this, we have not been getting full world maps. It's a similar issue with Final Fantasy, where they want to go bigger in scope, but they can't make a whole world. So what they do is put you like on a countryside, and this has been like a lot of Tales games recently. And they just put you like on a continent or something like that. And it's kind of disappointing because a lot of the games had like world staking things going on, and the other games don't feel like that as much. And on top of that, like with the battle system, they put like systems within systems now, and it's kind of annoying. Like with Berseria, they put like upgrading weapons and armor and like different stats and everything like that. I kind of wish they'd just go back to a simple like equipment system. Like this body armor is better than this body armor. Buy it, put on you, boom, done. But no,
that was my biggest complaint.
Yeah, they can't do it
with
anymore.
Berseria. Yeah, it was because every time I went to go buy or go to a new town, I would have to spend 45 minutes at a shop because I'd have 17 short swords and they all like affected like 9 different attributes, and like I just made me want to hang myself. So,
yeah,
and like I couldn't really tell the difference between any of them because the battle system, it just seemed like I was, no matter what, I just won. So
yeah, I feel like I'm in the menus more than the battle itself now. It's like so many things they want you to manage now, like managing stuff within managing stuff. And the games have just become like that, and it just gets frustrating. Now, granted, the game isn't so hard that you can't just cheese your way through it without completely understanding said mechanics. But
that's what I started to do.
Yeah, but I just wish they kind of go back to a simpler time. It's like
I agree.
I want a full world map again. I want it like a full world to explore, different towns, everything. And I think Vesperia is the game that absolutely nailed it. Now, I was hoping there'd be more games like that, but I feel like the quality has dropped and gone formulaic over time. Not so bad that they're terrible games, but so much that, like you said, they stay in that 7.58 range. They never really go above that.
Yeah. Well, I think what you bring up is just exactly what they need to do. I mean, Vesperia for me, as in terms of story and presentation, was awesome. Like it had a great story. I was very, very impressed. The characters were all fully well developed, and I just was like really enjoying that part of it. And the fact that the battle system wasn't really doing anything for me, I kind of put that in the background and just pushed through it for the story. But if they do I think for the next game, they do need to do a system overhaul. So they need to simplify the equipment system. They actually need a battle system that actually functions and not just like, even if you put it on the hardest mode, you usually win unless it's like a boss battle. Even there's simple stuff like there's like a mini game with like a ship where you send ships out and like it's like a pirate ship and it goes out and it comes back and it says, hey, look at all the items we found. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of dumb because all you do is tell it to go here and then you just go on your way and play the game, and then like a bell will ring and it says, oh, hey, look, you got all these new items from our rating as a pirate ship. Well, I mean, that's cool, but like I didn't do anything as a player except tell you to go to different spots. And it's like a random number generator. It's like you have a 20% chance of getting this item in this area. So I totally agree. If they can just really refine the user interface and just a lot of the loop aspect of the game and kind of make it a little more engaging, a little more enjoyable, I think we're going to have a top line game. And so I'm excited that they're putting in this effort for the next console version of this game. I don't know, man, but I think I do think a Switch game would be really cool as well. So
I think this PS4/5 Switch title will really determine where they want to go next.
Do you think it would be? Do you think it would be a? Because from what I was reading, some people thought that it would be two separate games, like a Switch game, and it would have its own story, and then the PS4 game would have its own story, and it would be two different Switch or Tales games instead of just releasing the same game on the Switch and the PS4.
It depends. They've put Tales games on handhelds also. There's a Tales game on DS, 3DS, Vita. Yeah. So, it's more if they're going to treat it like a handheld title or a console title for the Switch. That's the one thing with the Switch is you never know when a developer is making a handheld game or a console game for it. Sure. But it's very possible that they may just make the new engine good enough to, run on both PS4 and Switch. It's possible maybe the same game, or they may just treat it like two separate products, which is probably possible also. It's kind of hard to tell because, like I said, you don't know if they're aiming to make a handheld title or a console title with it. But then again, they did make Wii exclusive Tales games. They did make Tales of Symphonia 2 and, well, at the time it was exclusive to the Wii, and Tales of Hearts. Those were Wii exclusive games. So, I don't know. I guess maybe they're just kind of random and sporadic on where they put their title.
Yeah. I think regardless, whatever they do will be cool, and I would be excited. I think I honestly, if they announced one on the Switch, though, that would make me be like, oh wow, this is a really good console because there's some really cool games coming out on it. So, one last thing I remember I wanted to bring up with this was, and I just thought it was kind of cool. Like it was a little observation I made. I was reading a lot of fans' comments and forums and such. And people were complaining. They were saying, "Oh, because they're rebuilding the engine or whatever for the next console, that the next Tales game is going to take a long time." And people were like, "Well, how long do you think it's going to take?" And several people were like, "Oh, dude, it's probably going to take like 3 years till we see the next Tales game." And to me, like as a massive Final Fantasy fan, if they told me like, oh man, Final Fantasy 16 is coming out in 3 years, I would be like, dude, I'm so excited. Like this is coming out like so soon. Like, oh my God, it's not going to be a decade. This is great news, you know? So like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Whatever you get used to, if it changes, like people get upset. So I don't
Different
know.
standards. Like, Assassin's Creed came out every year. Then they decided to push it back a year, which is interesting because people are more like, yes, please push it back a year. Please make something different. Please make it like bigger and better. That's kind of how I was kind of looking at the new Tales. It's like, yeah, I mean, take a little break. That's fine. Take a little break if you want to make something like much bigger and better. It's like, then by all means, like, take a little more time than the usual time for you guys. Because they usually pop out a Tales game like every, I don't know, I would say less than 2 years or so. Like, Zestiria and Berseria were pretty close to each other. Same with Iliad 2 to Zestiria.
Yeah, it's just funny because on one hand, people are complaining because they're like, oh, they're not making good games like they used to, and then they're like, all right, we need to go back and kind of rebuild things from the ground up. People are like, no, you can't do that. It's going to take forever. It's like they can't win, but oh well. But yeah, I'm excited. So we'll see what happens. But let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. This is probably the big one that everyone's watching this video for or listening to this, and it's the Final Fantasy VII Remake. There was a lot of chatter on the internet recently because Square Enix put out a job listing. They're hiring more employees. And one of the comments that they put that for the job listing was that they're looking to take the Final Fantasy VII Remake to the next level in quality. They want to increase quality. And there's a lot of things like that made people think that they were practically starting the game over, basically, or because they were asking for like event coordinators with creative ideas. I don't know. I guess you could kind of get that impression. The job listing did say that it wasn't like a wrap up, hey, we just need some more people to finish this game off. It was more like they were still in the creative stage. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell for me personally because it's just a job listing. And the way I look at it is this is a good news. I mean, we were really worried about them making another crap game because they haven't made a really good Final Fantasy in a long time, unless I know, Eric, you're a big Final Fantasy 14 fan. But like single player Final Fantasy game, it's been pretty hit or miss. So the fact that like they're taking their time and they actually had that awareness to say like, oh man, like what we're making isn't very good. The fact that like CyberConnect 2 gave them, a year ago, hey, this is what we've been working on. They're like, you know what? CyberConnect 2, this isn't very good. We're going to take it in-house. And now they're like, okay, you know what? We like what we've done, but we want to hire some new people, with some new ideas, and we want to make this as good as possible. I think that's cool. I think that's great. I understand people that say like, oh God, this means it's going to take 10 years to come out, but not necessarily. I mean, they're just hiring more people. That's all this actually means. So if you add this on top of like the whole redesign a cloud and like Nomura basically saying, hey, it's not going to be Advent Children Cloud. It's going to be Cloud at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. He hasn't been through all this crazy stuff yet. So he's kind of goofy. I mean, if you just take these things and you kind of compare them, it's like, hey, well, they're having some recognition of what the character needs to be, but they're also going through and like increasing the quality of the game. I mean, I think that's a really good thing. So we can't as fans complain that the game's going to be crap and that it's just going to be incomplete and it's not going to be like it once was, and then complain when they try to hire more people. I mean, so I don't know. What do you think? Are you in the stage where, or the camp that's like, okay, this means the Final Fantasy VII Remake is not coming out until you file for Social Security? Or is this good news, or where are you on the spectrum?
I personally don't think that they just started over. It's when you have job listings like this, it's usually because you're in the middle of it, but then you find out during the development process, it's like, okay, we have to meet these certain deadlines or these dates or anything like that. and we can't meet it with the current staff we have right now. So we need to hire more people to get in here and help us push it more. I highly doubt, I'm sure they're in the phase right now where they have everything set up and ready. They're just executing the development process right now. And because pre-planning is actually what actually takes a really long time. Then like developing after that, it takes a good while also. But I mean, both processes take very long. And like, we don't honestly know where they even are at this point with it. But if I just had to take a guess, they just needed more people to help push it further, get the game out faster,
Yeah, they just hired more people, So I don't know. Like on one hand, it seems. I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but it seems like people complain because the game's not going to be out in enough time, and that if they weren't working on Final Fantasy 15, they would have more people working on Final Fantasy 7, and it would come out sooner. And if Nomura wasn't making Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 7, he could focus entirely on Final Fantasy 7. And this game's never coming out. Then Square puts out a job listing, and they're like, "Hey, we want people to come work on this game and make it better." And people are freaking out. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like they're just hiring people. Like, it doesn't seem.
This is something I complained about in our FF7 remake video, is that they're so vague with us on what's going on, and they announced it so early and not able to disclose information with us because of it. And so the problem is that people are just coming to their own conclusion. And I'm not entirely blaming it on people. It's a little column A and column B of the developers being very vague. They announced it too early. They can't give info because they don't have info to share. And then here is us thinking now it's 2015, and we're 1/4 into 2018 now. And we still don't really have concrete information. We had a concept video and a few screenshots, and that's it. We don't know anything about the game except maybe small little tidbits. We've seen a little bit of artwork of secondary characters. We've seen very little of it. And because of that, people are going to come to their own conclusions. And this is the part where it's just a lack of communication from Square Enix. It's just they can't just come out and show something or just say how the development is going. Just say, hey, this is where we're at right now. We don't have anything we can share with you right now, but we did announce this in 2015, so I think it's only fair that we share something. But I don't know if that's a Japanese mindset. I know Square Enix has been getting out of the being quiet approach now, because they used to do that back then, but then when you had Naoki Yoshida be very communicative with people about Final Fantasy 14 during its transition from 1.0 to 2.0, that was the ideal way to do it. And then Tabata tried to do it himself with 15, where he was being transparent with people. He was like, okay, this is how development is going. This is where we're at right now. We want your feedback for it, which there were some up and downs to that approach. He did it, but that type of system is fine. It's not saying...
I don't... I think I might disagree with you just a little bit, but go ahead and finish your thought and I'll tell you why.
Because... I mean, you don't want to take so much player feedback that, the fans take over. But at the same time, it's good to be transparent on where you are with it. And if fans have comments about it, I'm not saying follow exactly what they want, but you can get ideas of what they may want, because it could really go either way. The player base may not know what's good for them at the same time.
Well, and here's the problem, though. I think you should seek player feedback, but I think in Tabata's stance, it's okay, you're trying to make this massive game in this style that you've never really done before in 3 years. Sometimes I think, in some ways, I think player feedback probably helped the game, but other ways I think it hurt it, because Tabata would come out and say okay, this Final Fantasy, sorry guys, we're not going to have airships like other Final Fantasies. Which is an outrageous thing to say, because every Final Fantasy has airships. You can't not have an airship.
They could fly a car.
So then, so fans are pissed, And he's like, oh my God. Okay. I see this would really make you guys mad. Let's go put airships in there. And like, but like, if you like read up on the development, because they decided to make airships part of the game, like kind of like last minute, that took like 4 months of like development time because they had to like rework everything and make sure it worked properly to have the car be able to fly through the air and everything like that. That could have been devoted to like maybe like fixing the story up a little bit or things like that. So I think sometimes like under the wrong circumstances, that might not be the best way to go. And I think in Final Fantasy 15's case, I think sometimes it hurt it. But I think Tabata went a little too far into trying to make everybody happy. But I do think that certain things, it definitely helped the game for sure. So
no, I mean you're right that he shouldn't have taken so much from them. I'm talking about more like the idea of it. That,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Like not like be like, okay, well this is not what people want, so we got to do this whole thing over again. It's not do it over again. It's okay. How can I get people to like it? If they don't like it now, what adjustments can we make to make it better?
Well, and Tabata was in a very rough stage too, because he took this game over and like Final Fantasy 15 already had like a lot of negative press going on because even when he took it over, like the game had already been in development for like 7 years. So like, it's like, well, he has to get the fan base excited about the game again. Right. So I guess like going out and reaching out and being like, hey, this is what we're doing and being very vocal about it is one way to get people excited. So I think that, I can't really give him too much crap for it, but I don't know. I guess what you're trying to say is like, it'd be cool if they'd be a little more vocal with the 7 remake, right? Because it's been in development so long at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a player feedback thing. Just be like, this is our report of it right now. It's, we don't have any screenshots to share anything. It doesn't have to be a big conference or anything. You can just a message from Square Enix Twitter or YouTube or something and just say, hey, this is the state of it right now. We know you guys are waiting, but, we're good with it. Everything's going smoothly. There are no setbacks. If there are setbacks, just be like, it's like we've had a couple complications, but we've resolved them and we're continuing right now.
Absolutely. I mean, they should just be a little more clear. They don't have to have like a big, like, hey, on the 28th of next month, we're going to be streaming a live a YouTube thing, and we're going to have girls out there in chocobo suits, and we're going to have Chocolina there, and Ray Chase is going to make it. No, they don't have to do that. Just like, put out a like little, tweet or something. But the thing is Square has been so like shy with information about this game that if they did put out like a little 7 update like that, like YouTube would just explode, because we're at the point now where if Square puts out a job like listing, like they're like, we would like to have some more people work on the game. Like you get like 97,000 YouTube videos and like all of Twitter erupts. Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to get in the habit of just being a little more vocal, and I think it would help them a lot so they could get to the point where, at the very least they could hire people without, people like reading too far into it.
Here's my argument with the entire thing. If they didn't screw up 14, 15, and 7 remake so much,
and 13,
that we wouldn't be asking them to be so transparent. I mean, when Fallout got announced in E3 and it came out in November, were people just like demanding Bethesda to come out and be transparent about their development process? Maybe the crazy people, but generally no. It's because they had a set date, like they were able to show the gameplay and everything, and everyone got a really good idea of the product they're about to get. What Square Enix did was they announced it in 2015. They showed just a beginning trailer of like Cloud and Barrett just walking through, and you see a little bit of Midgar, and that's it. We have little to no idea what they're doing with the game, how the game's going to be structured. We got a tiny taste of the combat system that may not even be like that when it comes out. We have no idea. Yeah, it was, if they just don't announce these so early, if they have like a product that's almost ready to go, that's like an alpha/beta phase, that's an appropriate moment to announce the game. Because you have something working going. You just have to work out the kinks to make sure that everything is working the way it should be. And then you can talk about it all you want between then and when the game comes out, or like information that's appropriate to give. And it's like, no, you announced in 2015 and they stay quiet and everyone's wondering like, oh yeah, about that FF7 remake now. And it's like, it's like God's gift to the world every time we get some form of information from it. It shouldn't ever be like that. It's like, you shouldn't have to be quiet about that. You should be able to talk about your game as soon as you announce it. I don't know why Square Enix thinks why the way they do it is such a good idea. It's a really bad one.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think is maybe it pushes up the value of their stock briefly. I don't know, because you are right. When they sit there and promote the game like they have been, and the game's like barely in development when they announce it, then you get all these different interview requests, and you got people like Katase coming out and saying like really broad statements like everything you enjoyed in the original will be in the 7 remake. And like stuff like that. And, you know, when people hear that, they just assume all sorts of things. And you're just naturally setting yourself up to fail. So
that is one
I don't
point. That is one good point you made, that, you know, it pleased stockholders. Definitely. When you announce that, like, I'm sure Square Enix's stocks just like blasted through the roof when they announced the FF7 remake. But the problem with that is then it goes right back down when you start hearing things like CyberConnect 2 is no longer developing, or fans are not pleased when they hear the game is episodic. It's like the shareholder, like the stock, like they're going down when news like that happens. So that's more of a short-term solution than a long-term solution to me. I don't think it works well.
I don't think it's very good for business at all. I mean, you could argue like what they've been doing with Final Fantasy 15. They've made so much money off 15 with all the DLC and everything. So, I mean, just making like good content will go a long way. So, but did you have anything else you wanted to say with the 7 remake news?
No, I mean, it's not too much to talk about in regards to the main topic itself.
Very cool. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up Leon's comment. He usually gives us a full review of our episodes, and I really appreciate it because he has some good insight. But let me get this up here. It's 1 second. And one thing he did bring up, which I know some other listeners brought up as well, is they wanted us to rate the entire Final Fantasy soundtrack. So that is something that we're willing to do. At least I think we're probably going to limit it to like our top 3 or 5, but we are going to have a vote in the right-hand corner here in which you can actually vote for what's your favorite soundtrack. So we can talk about that next week.
Yeah, it'll be Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 9, or Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah. So that's Eric's thoughts. But anyways, so Leon, he was wanting to know, well, first off, he's getting his input on last week we were talking about with BioWare and the developers that were leaving to that other company that 21st Century Fox started. And they're going to be working on a new game based on one of Fox's first properties, which was supposed to be either Die Hard, Alien, The Simpsons, or Home Alone. And we were kind of baffled, but he said he's really hoping for an Alien game and not just a first-person shooter, but like he wants some more detail involved with that. And we were talking about that last week, and I kind of agree, man. Like, if you only gave me those 4, I really think an Alien game would be the way to go. I could see some cool stuff happening with that. Because everything else just kind of makes me cringe. You brought up Married with Children, and that just made me laugh hysterically while I was editing that video. That made me laugh really hard because that show was hilarious. But anyways, so yeah, man, an Alien game, I would be down for that. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the movies, but I mean, I could be in on that. Let's see here. He brings up, what did he say? The Final Fantasy soundtrack, but also he wanted to know if we had any thoughts with Magic the Gathering Arena. And apparently they released the beta. You can go sign up for that now if you Google that and play the game for free, I believe. And my thoughts with this game are that I've gotten like almost no experience with Magic the Gathering. Eric, did you have any experience with Magic the Gathering?
Nope, sorry, video gamer, not a card gamer. I mean, I've had friends who try to get me into it. I think the concept of it is pretty cool. I think it definitely has a great following to it. I definitely like the art designs they put on it. And the cards are like really cool looking. And I'm sure the game is fun. But card games have never really been a thing for me. The biggest I've ever been into card games was Pokemon. And that was me as a kid when the Pokemon craze was, I mean, there's still a Pokemon craze today. But I mean, my generation Pokemon craze, I collected them a lot. And you know, I did have a collection book for them. I wish I got to sell them during the Pokemon Go craze, but they're lost somewhere. I could not find them when I tried to. But that's the most I've ever done with card games. Sorry, I can't really give you a comment on that. I know Magic is the top dog card game. So, yeah, that's about.
Yeah, I've never played it, but if you are interested, anyone out there, there is a beta right now that's been released of Magic the Gathering Arena. And I don't have the URL, but if you just Google it, it'll be the first one that pops up. And you can sign up for the beta and play the game. And, you know, if you have any thoughts with it, give it in the comments. And we'll talk about it, or at least as much as we can. So also, he said he wanted to hear more about Shadow of the Colossus. Did you ever play any more of the PS4 version of that game?
Yeah, it was essentially the PS2 one, so it's a lot better looking, and the presentation's a lot better. I mean, like graphically, some people may have argued that like some style of the PS2 didn't like come all the way to the PS4 version correctly. I thought it was fine overall, but it is essentially the same game as the PS2 version, and the story's great. It has a great twist to everything, and I really like the ending to it. I mean, the game is fun all the way through. Like the 13 giant of the game will make you pee your pants. he's that big, and you know it's fun to finally beat him. I mean, it's a satisfying game at the end.
Did you see that Dark Pixel Gaming video that Mike from Dark Pixel Gaming? He made this video about Shadow of the Colossus, the remaster recently released on the PS4, and he was given all this praise, but he felt like the touch up they did with the characters' faces, that some of the scenes were hurt by the touching up, I guess, because he felt like there were certain emotions that were not conveyed in the PS4 remaster that were in the original. But I think that's like the only criticism he had of it, because other than that, he was like, man, this is a great remaster. But did you have any thoughts? Like, do you agree with that, or is it kind of like,
I'm not entirely sure.
You didn't notice?
I would need to compare the two, like side by side.
Yeah, because he was showing a specific scene. I don't want to give spoilers, but basically he was given a scene in which the character was supposed to have a lot of emotion, and he was giving the PS4 version. And I was looking at it, and I was like, okay, like seems all right to me. But then, like once he showed like the PS2 version, like right next to it, and they were going on like side by side, like all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's a big difference. But if you just like, you know, you haven't played the game in like 15 years, I don't know if you'll notice or not. But I bet you like really hardcore fans have noticed little things like that. I noticed a little bit of issues like that with the Final Fantasy X PS4 edition. I felt like some of the scenes were a little more, I don't know, like I feel like the original character models had more emotion, whereas like in the PS4 edition, some of the end-game cutscenes, it felt like it was just like a plastic doll that was talking. I don't know. You know, sometimes these remasters might hurt it a little bit in certain areas, but overall, it looks like it's been a lot more immersive. So
it's still a great game. 100% recommend it. It's only $40 on top of that.
Yeah, and he also did bring up that his first console he started gaming in the 80s was the Atari, and then the regular Nintendo. So Leon, my man, how old are you?
You're older than me. I was born in '89, and my first console was the regular Nintendo. My first game.
That was my first one too. Yeah,
and Super Mario Bros. I mean, classic. That was my first game. Then all hell broke loose from there.
Yep, that was my first console, was the regular Nintendo, And then I played that thing for years until I kept saving my allowance money for a Super Nintendo. And I got it stuck in my head. It was like, I can't remember, like $150 or $200 or something. And I finally saved my allowance money up like over a period of years to buy the Super Nintendo that I wanted. And when I went to the store, my dad was just like, why don't you just get a PlayStation? Because by the time I saved up enough money, like the PlayStation was out. And I think he helped me buy it. But we took that thing home and I was kind of bummed out. I was like, man, this system's going to suck. I wanted a Super Nintendo. I can't believe I let my dad talk me into getting a PlayStation. This thing sounds stupid. I never even heard of a PlayStation. And then we started that thing up with like a demo disc. And it had like Formula like 1 racing or something on it. And I was just like, whoa, this looks realistic. Like this looks like a photograph. And I was just like, why did I want a Super Nintendo? So it's kind of interesting to see the way you transition to systems. So
yeah, it was truly the Super Nintendo that really kicked me off. And Zelda: Link to the Past, my favorite game, by the way, people, is the one that really started my gaming career. And I got a PlayStation 1 in 1995. Like, that was actually like the first time that like my family actually got a console the first year it came out. And it was really cool to get that demo disc that had Battle Arena Toshinden, Destruction Derby, Wipeout.
See, mine had like 15 games on it, but it only had like the first level. So I think I had Crash Bandicoot, I had Tekken 2, I had some jet ski game. Dude, there's a lot of games on there. I think I had Tumba, I think was on there. I can't remember, but anyways.
Yeah, the PS1 started off strong, no doubt. I mean, they just went all in. They really wanted to be a competitor in the industry. No boy, did they get it.
Yeah, well, in Final Fantasy 7, we were talking about that. That really helped sell that console. I mean, it sold 11 million copies. Final Fantasy 7 did on the PS1, and this was for like a game that was released on one console. It's not like it sold 11 million copies and it was sold on like every console known to man. That's one console, and this was like pre-social media. This is back when like only nerds played video games, right? And I'm not trying to say like I was a nerd. I get it, like, you know, but I'm just saying like now like people's grandma play video games, you know, it's a lot more socially acceptable. So 11
Nerd
million
right
copies. Yeah. 11 million copies on a Sony PlayStation 1. That meant 11 million people said, I'm going to go buy a PS1. So that really helped the Sony PS1 in my opinion. But anyways, did you have any other thoughts you want to give with all those off the wall topics?
Not really. I mean, if I told you my actual gaming history, we'd be, another 2 hours on this thing. So that's a small gist of it. I mean, I was 3 years old, Super Mario Bros. Super Nintendo came in a little soon after that, and Zelda: Link to the Past just changed my whole life.
Cool, man. So they kind of gave you a structure for your life, and you just wake up every day thinking, what would Link do?
Hobby-wise.
Yeah, I get you. I know what you meant. All right, so we're done goofing off here, and we're just going to close this podcast here. But again, if you're watching this at this point, we'd really appreciate if you would subscribe. So just hit the subscribe button on the YouTube video, and or down in the corner, and would really appreciate it, and let us know that you're watching and you enjoy the content. Again, we do have a Twitter account now, so you can contact us there, and we'll have every video that we release will be on there, and we really appreciate if you would follow us on there so we can kind of build that following up a little bit. And then also, if you want to listen to the audio only version, there will be a link in the description. And as always, we will catch you guys next week. So thanks for listening, guys.
All right, take care.